everyone to the Thursday, April 15th meeting of the SACOG Board of Directors. Good to see you all, and we will start with a Pledge of Allegiance. Ask Director Middleton if she would lead the Pledge of Allegiance for us.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll begin with roll call, please.
Thank you. Right before I take roll call, I just wanted to make a housekeeping announcement, and that is if we have any board members who are participating by telephone, please press *9 to make a public comment or to make a comment, excuse me. And then also we would ask that you mute your device when you're not speaking. I'll go ahead and take roll call. Please be prepared to indicate your attendance. Director Baines.
Present.
Bernasconi.
Here.
Bradford.
Here.
Branscombe.
Here.
Boulahan. I'll note for the record that she is online and she is present. Thank you. Burris.
Present.
Clark Kretz.
Here.
Desmond.
Here.
Frericks.
Here.
Frost.
Here.
Gallardo.
Here.
Gog.
Yes.
Guerrero.
Here.
Harris.
Here. Good morning.
Joyner.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Kozlowski.
Here.
Lozano.
Here.
Middleton.
Here.
New.
Here.
Sander. Absent Saragosa.
Here.
Saylor.
Here.
Chenier.
Here.
Spokley.
Here.
Stallard.
Here.
Soon.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
West. Absent. Vice Chair Jennings.
Here.
Chair Gore.
Here.
And ex officio member Benny Paul.
Good morning, I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynette. All right, before we get started, I'm sort of doing the chair report at the beginning of the meeting, but I wanted to announce the members of the Race, Equity, and Inclusion Working Group. Thank you all for your interest. It was great that we actually had more interest than seats available this time, but the following directors have agreed to participate. So we're going to have Director Jennings serve as chair, and Lucas Frericks has agreed to serve as vice chair. And then rounding out the group of 10, we have directors Clark Kretz, Gallardo, Gog, Guerrero, Middleton, Saragosa, Chenier, and Soon. So it looks like we've got a really a diverse group, different jurisdictions. So thank you all for offering to participate, and look forward to the work that you'll do this next year. Also, we are going to hold a retreat for the board this year at the end of the year. The two dates that we've identified are September 17th or October 1st. So if you haven't yet already, let Lynette know the date that works best for you, or if both dates work. If you could do that, that would be helpful so that we can get that date on our calendars and start scheduling. And then finally, the executive director's evaluation is due and will begin next month. So the strategic planning committee will meet on May 10th to approve the evaluation form and the timeline. And after the strategic planning committee meeting, the entire board will receive the evaluation form and Jane's self-evaluation. So we'll ask you all to complete the evaluation forms and get them back to Lynette by May 17th. And then our board will meet in closed session on May 20th to conduct James's evaluation. And we'll send you an email to remind you all. So those are my announcements for this morning. And we'll go ahead and move on to public communications. This is an opportunity for anyone in the public to address an item that does not appear on today's agenda. So Renee, do we have any public comments via email, or is there a member of the public that would like to make a public comment?
We do have a public comment. I'm going to go ahead and call her by phone and bring her into the meeting to make that comment.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Cheryl. This is Renee from SACOG. Can you confirm that you can hear me? Hi, Cheryl. This is Renee from SACOG. Can you confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You are live at the board meeting to make your public comment.
Thank you very much. My name is Cheryl Bergama. I'm a long-term Placer County resident. I attended your last board meeting and listened to the many passionate and educational presentations on housing and equity. It's good to know that there's a regional multi-county approach to some of the difficult challenges we face. The question of what can be done was raised. As a resident of the Placer County, I'd like to share my thoughts on affordable housing, equity, and leadership. Placer County's performance on the current 2013 to 21 housing element has been abysmal. In the past 8 years, very little affordable and workforce housing has been built. This is not due to lack of community support. Placer County is thousands behind in its obligations for affordable housing responsibilities. I believe Placer County has systematically renegotiated specific plans and granted extensions to these plans, locking in entitlements and obligations for the wealthy. Roseville recently requested an exception to the SACOG RENA numbers required due to the Amorosa specific plan. This problem is magnified because Placer County has 6 specific plans, which are now all part of this larger problem of protecting wealthy entitlements and housing obligations while SACOG numbers for RENA increase. Residents are now expected by the county to produce more housing than developers. Placer policies that create inequity have not produced housing, such as in lieu fees or continuously loosed, instead of promoting the building of affordable housing on site. In addition, Placer's in lieu fees are some of the lowest in California, widening the equity gap. Counties such as Sutter's in lieu fees are multiple times higher. Recent data to compound this problem also suggests that rental and housing prices in our region are escalating. There's a lack of supply, and so the problem is getting worse. The governor's new housing enforcement task force has not been made public. If actions aren't taken soon, Placer could find itself dug in so far behind that they can never catch up to their obligation and lose significant state and federal dollars. Recently, the Sunset Area Plan was approved in 2019, which is a sad example of the inequity practices that Placer promotes. Sunset has low-density, high-priced urban sprawl, illegally segregated very low and low affordable housing by the freeway, age-restricted housing by industrial, and university students within feet of a landfill. As a county-funded and promoted plan, this should have been a showcase for the region. HCD recently provided feedback on Placer County's housing element draft requiring workforce housing to be built within a short time frame. Unfortunately, this burden is now being funded through the Placer County General Fund since the specific plans are locked in. So we're now harming those that need the services most by taking services away from them instead of asking for those wealthy resort owners and developers to pay their fair share. So in response to what role can leadership play to provide housing, Placer County recently approved a precedent-setting project called Carvana, the Amazon of used cars. This project is a Trojan horse for Carvana in California. The project will bring 850 low-wage earners working double shifts without a requirement for affordable housing. 70,000 vehicles a year will be used. I request that you ask Placer County to revoke the Carvana use permit and require a proper environmental evaluation. I think that would be helpful in looking at those 850 families that will need housing. I also asked Bonnie Gore to explain the inconsistencies between her role as placer supervisor with failed housing performance and inequitable policies, projects, and ordinances exercised in Placer County and her role as SACOG chair championing affordable housing and equity.
So much,
I
Carol.
thank you very much for the opportunity to provide comment.
Thank you. Do you have any other callers for public comment, Lynette?
No, Chair Gore, no other public comment.
All right, thank you very much. We are going to go ahead and adjourn as SACOG and convene as the Airport Land Use Commission. And so with that, the ALUC agenda, which is a separate item on your agenda online, and this is a consent agenda item. It's the amendment to agreement on Mather Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan. Does anyone wish to discuss this item?
I'm happy to move the item.
Kennedy, second.
All right, so I didn't hear who.
Ferrick's moved.
Ferrick's, thank you, Lucas, and a second by Kennedy. And it looks like there's no other discussion, no hands raised. So with that, looks like all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any no's?
Chair Gore.
Abstention.
You need a roll call. Is that right? No.
Come on, somebody gave me notes that said I could say aye and no.
Yeah. Sorry about that. We do need a roll call vote, but I will make it.
Forget a roll call, go ahead.
I'll
That's
be as
right, Bonnie.
quick as I can. Yeah. All right. Director Baines,
Aye.
Bernasconi,
Aye.
Bradford,
Aye.
Branscombe,
Aye.
Boulahan,
Aye.
Burris,
Aye.
Clark Kretz,
Aye.
Desmond,
Aye.
Frericks,
Aye.
Frost,
Aye.
Gallardo,
Aye.
Gog,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Joyner,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Kozlowski,
Yes.
Lozano,
Aye.
Middleton,
Aye.
New,
Aye.
Sander, absent Zaragoza,
Aye.
Saylor,
Aye.
Chenier,
Aye.
Spokley,
Yes.
Stallard,
Aye.
Soon.
Aye.
Director Soon, could you indicate your vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Thomas,
Aye.
West, absent Vice Chair Jennings,
Aye.
and Chair Gore.
Great, thank you. The motion carries, and we
Yes.
now adjourn as the Airport Land Use Commission and we convene as SACOG. And we'll move on to the SACOG's consent calendar. These items are intended to be approved in one motion, but anyone can remove an item for separate discussion. Is there a director who would like to remove an item from the consent?
Stallard moves.
Zaragoza, second.
All right, and let's just make sure we don't have anybody from the public who wants to remove an item from the consent agenda.
No, Chair Gore.
All right, then we've got a motion and a second, and we'll take roll call, please.
Thank you. Director Baines,
Aye.
Bernasconi,
Aye.
Bradford,
Aye.
Branscombe,
Aye.
Boulahan,
Aye.
Burris,
Aye.
Clark Kretz,
Aye.
Desmond,
Aye.
Frericks,
Aye.
Frost,
Aye.
Gallardo,
Aye.
Gog,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Aye.
Harris,
Aye.
Joyner,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Kozlowski,
Yes.
Lozano,
Aye.
Middleton,
Aye.
New,
Aye.
Sander absent Zaragoza,
Aye.
Saylor,
Aye.
Chenier,
Aye.
Spokley,
Yes.
Stallard,
Aye.
Soon,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
West absent, Vice Chair Jennings,
Aye.
Chair Gore.
Great, thank you. Motion is approved, or the consent calendar is approved. We are moving on to item 11, which is to approve the 2021 funding round staff recommendation. So we'll hand this off to Garrett Ballard Rosa.
Well, thank you, Chair, and good morning, members of the board. As the Chair just mentioned, this first action item for your consideration this morning is the recommendations in SACOG's 4-county 2021 transportation funding round. This item went through all 3 committees earlier this month, and the recommending committee, the Transportation Committee, did unanimously recommend the board adopt this item this morning. Since the item went through all 3 committees, we just wanted to touch briefly in the staff report on a couple of the key points, but the intent is to get through the staff presentation quickly to leave plenty of time for board deliberation and public comment. The first point from the presentation, the committee cycles, is this item is really the culmination of 2 years worth of work. We talked about the engagement and feedback that really culminated in late 2020 and the board adopting a new framework for the SACOG funding round. And one of the central thesis of that framework was how to have more certainty in a competitive funding program. So the framework you adopted last year had new program categories. It had the ability to engage with sponsors and SACOG prior to the application, what we called the pre-application consultation. We asked sponsors to prioritize their own applications coming through the program, and we had the ability for larger awards or awards that span multiple cycles. In conjunction with that sort of structural elements of it, we continue to work on application streamlining and improvements to the evaluation process, where we broadened participation in the evaluation. We implemented a new interview stage, and we continue to bring forward what we call the project performance or assessment, or the data and analytics we use to pair with the applications themselves. And finally, that framework set forward 4 programs for this 2020 funding round. And the 2 of them, the regional program, Community Design, the 2 largest programs are the programs for the recommendation today, and the other 2 programs, Innovative Mobility and the Engage, Empower, and Implement programs will follow. So the first part of the recommendation pertains to the budget. We talked in the committee cycles about this one-time federal transportation stimulus dollars that we've brought into the funding budget. 16 million more dollars into the funding availability brings the funding total to $198 million. The second part of the recommendation, the crux of the recommendation then, is the awards within that $198 million. We spent a lot of time in the staff report and in the committee presentations talking about the process that went into that recommendation. I mentioned a little bit earlier the pre-application consultation, where we sat down with every interested sponsor to talk through their projects. And then overall, between this regional and community design program, we received over 110 applications that requested more than $460 million, so a very heavily oversubscribed program. We convened multiple working groups to look at the evaluation criteria, and ultimately that led to the recommendation. And the attachment C, the lengthy attachment, does describe project by project the summary of the application review. And then finally, if the board were to adopt this item this morning, it would allow staff to work with project sponsors to bring these awarded projects into the delivery program, i.e. allow the projects to move forward with implementing them. So as I mentioned, like prior cycles, this is a heavily oversubscribed program, and more money and requests than available. So many important and valuable projects are not part of the recommendation, but overall we do see the recommendation aligning with the objectives we believe that the framework put forward. One of the key points we emphasize in the committee presentation, within the maintenance and modernization category, one of the large categories, 19 of the 20 top priority projects are recommended for funding. And then the analog within the transformative category, 10 of the 13 top priority projects are recommended for funding. And we believe this award also aligns with the performance objectives, both federal, state, and regional, that we've been moving forward in the round. So a lot of this we talked about in the committee cycle. We just want to hit on those few key points, and myself and Matt Carpenter are here for any questions the board may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Garrett. Appreciate that. Let's open it up to directors for questions in regards to this item.
Chair Gore soon moves the item.
All right.
Bradford, second.
Well, let's see. So I have a motion from Director Soon. I think Bradford said second, but we do need to have some discussion. So go ahead, Supervisor Frost, and see your hand up.
I just wanted to say a special thank you to the SACOG staff for their special attention to the Sacramento County priorities. I can't speak for the board, but I can say that the staff felt that you did pay special attention to our priorities, and we thank you very much for all of your assistance through the process and helping us with this funding round. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Director Frericks.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Just to actually echo Supervisor Frost's comments in terms of just a word of thanks, specifically and appreciation to staff. So we have a lot of new directors, obviously, this year, and that's wonderful to see. And we're so happy to have so many new members on the board. But this is this item has been ongoing for over a year at this point in terms of the process and sort of development of this proposal, and then of course ultimately getting to this point where we have recommendations and an action on the award recommendations for the regional funding round. And it's so a bulk of I would say a bulk of our time in 2020 was on the board level was spent on sort of this process. So really it's been appreciate all the work by the members of the board and the discussions over the course of the past year, but especially would like to recognize Garrett and Matt for their work on shepherding this process to what we hope is a successful landing spot today. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Director Frericks. Director Guerrero.
Hi, thank you. I just want to echo those statements as well. Me being new here, was looking to figure out how to make this happen, and seeing that the SACOG staff and everybody were already working on developing the recommendations and connecting with our city staff, and greatly appreciate the work that has been done behind the scenes, and thankful for the recommendations here today.
Thank you. Any other questions from directors? Director Lozano.
Yeah, I just would like to pass on to staff also a big thank you. I know that our city staff felt very supported through this process, and I did want to pass that on to James and crew to let them know that the city of Galt was very, very pleased with their support and continued support. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Jennings.
Thank you very much. I too just want to join in on the acknowledgement of staff and the great work that they've done with our staff at the city levels and the county levels and all of that. I also want to acknowledge the committee. Each one of the committees, this went through our committees, and each one of our committees really did hard work in going through it to make sure that the process met the results that we wanted. And then I just want to acknowledge the leadership of our director, James Corliss, in making all this happen. In my opinion, this is the smoothest that we've ever had from a funding round. So I just want to acknowledge the committees. I want to acknowledge the staff, and I want to acknowledge the leadership of James Corliss.
Thank you. Director Kozlowski.
Yeah, it's been said already, and Director Jennings hit the nail right on the head. I think the staff and James did a remarkable job of taking what had been some fraught conversations and developing some enhancements to the evaluation process that have worked beautifully, ended up with an outstanding result. And I'm grateful for that support from SACOG staff, from all the directors, and speaking for our city staff in Folsom, they're very, very satisfied with the result here and happy to move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move to public comment, I do have one question. I know that not everybody got the funding that they would like. And I wanted to ask when we anticipate the next round of funding, Garrett.
I'll start, and then of course, Matt or James, please jump in. That is a policy discretion item for the board. Traditionally, we have a funding round every 2 years. So conceivably, we could have and remember, we were planning on having a funding round in 2020, but due to the board's deliberation on the framework, we pushed that out to 2021. So conceivably, we could have that as soon as 2022 or 2023, but that is a policy decision that the board will be making. And then the decision that you consider is how far you want to program out. And the state and federal resources that SACOG administers. So it's kind of what's the joke of maybe a sports analogy of you win one game and then you move on to the next one, right? That if that's the direction of the board, and staff is more than willing to start thinking about the schedule of the next round and bringing some ideas forward to the board.
Well, thank you. And I think the important part to note is that SACOG staff will work with jurisdictions on these applications to make them stronger and get them to a place where they can be teed up for funding for the future.
And Chair Gore, if I may, just to add to that, we are also very much monitoring new opportunities emerging, both in terms of federal funding, whether it's the discussion around infrastructure bill that may occur later this year, competitive grants that are starting to be noticed at the federal level. And then, of course, the next round of the state's competitive grants through the Senate Bill 1 program are going to start in early 2022. So our team stands ready to help with our local agency staff to provide technical assistance and support their efforts to bring back to the region some competitive federal and state grants. We've been very successful in recent years, and we'd like to continue that in partnership with local agency staff.
We'd like you to be successful with that as well as the opportunities arise. Let's go ahead and open this up to public comment, please. I believe we have a couple of comments.
Thanks, Chair Gore. Renee will go ahead and call in our first public commenter.
Thank you, Lynette. I'm going to call him in right now. Hi, Rafe. This is Renee from SACOG. Can you confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, you're live at the board meeting.
Yeah, good morning, Chair Gore and SACOG board. My name is Rafe Porter. I'm the program manager for the Transportation and Climate Change Division at Sac Metro Air District. I want to start by thanking SACOG staff for the hard work they've put into this funding round. As a former SACOG employee myself, I do understand the amount of blood, sweat, and yes, sometimes tears that go into this work. Your staff has been very helpful to the Air District through this process and over the many years, so thank you for that. I'm asking this morning that the board adopt the staff recommendations for the 2021 funding round. As Garrett mentioned, this collection of projects moves the region towards implementation of the MTP SES and help us achieve our federal and state goals. But I think more importantly, it improves, if approved and implemented, these projects move our region towards a more equitable, efficient, and effective transportation network. It improves air quality, especially for our most vulnerable to the negative impacts of transportation emissions. Sac Metro Air District considers SACOG a very strong partner, and decisions like the one you're about to make this morning help make my job a lot easier in achieving the clean air. So thank you again to the staff and the board for their continued partnership with Sac Metro Air District, and I look forward to your action this morning. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, and we'll bring in the next public comment.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to call him in right now. My apologies for the delay. I'm going to try to recall him. He did not answer. Hi, Eric. This is Renee from SACOG. Can you confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. You're live at the SACOG board meeting.
Good morning. My name is Eric Reitz. I'm with Sacramento Regional Transit. I wanted to take a little bit of time and thank the SACOG staff for all of their time and effort put into this year's regional funding program. The ongoing engagement with sponsors helped to both streamline the process while also flushing out excellent projects to help move the transportation system forward. And SACRT really appreciates all the hard work put into this. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric, for your comment. Appreciate that. And do we have anyone else from the public who would like to be on this item?
No other public comment.
Okay, then we will close public comment. And do you have the name of who made the motion, who seconded, Lynette?
I believe it was Director Soon and Director Bradford.
All right, and with that, we will go ahead and take a roll call vote.
Thank you. Director Bain?
Aye.
Bernasconi?
Aye.
Bradford?
Aye.
Branscombe?
Yes.
Houlihan?
Aye.
Burris? Director Burris, could you indicate your vote? I'll come back to her. Clark Kretz?
Yes.
Desmond?
Aye.
Frericks?
Aye.
Frost?
Aye.
Gallardo?
Aye.
Gog?
Yes.
Guerrero?
Aye.
Harris?
Aye.
Joyner?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Kozlowski?
Yes.
Lozano?
Aye.
Middleton?
Aye.
New?
Aye.
Sander?
Aye.
Saragosa?
Aye.
Saylor?
Aye.
Kinnear?
Aye.
Oakley?
Yes.
Ballard?
Yes.
Soon?
Aye.
Thomas? Aye. West? Absent Vice Chair Jennings?
Aye.
Chair Gore?
Aye.
And Director Burris, are you there? Could you indicate your vote? Okay, I'll mark her absent, but motion carries.
Thank you, Lynette. And before we move on to item number 12, James, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Gore. I certainly appreciate the board members weighing in on this, and I know for those of you that are new this year, you're probably intrigued by some of the comments that were made in reference to this beginning a year ago. And I just want to reflect on this process that started really actually early last year and really came to the board over the summer. And it was a really tough discussion, and it was a debate among board members. And I think that's a really important thing. I think it's a very crucial thing that you all as a board wrestle with these very difficult issues. It was in many ways coming down to the balancing of local needs and regional priorities. It was putting into question the role of regional approach and the role of SACOG versus cities and counties. And you gave us a problem to try to solve. And it was honestly one of the toughest problems we had to solve in quite some time. And I really appreciate the board members recognizing the work of the staff. And I will also recognize the work of many of your staffs to do this. This was done very much in partnership and conjunction. That doesn't mean that we've got a perfect process. That doesn't mean there can't be improvements. I know there's interest in doing a bit of a debrief on this at the Strategic Planning Committee. I do want to flag that I think it's really important as our work around race and equity and inclusion goes forward, we have a better understanding of how we can get projects that truly represent the needs and address the challenges of lower income communities and communities of color in our region. So there's more work to do, but I just want to recognize the importance of the debate you had last summer, how much we took that to heart and how much your staff here at SACOG and the staffs of your jurisdictions really worked on that. And we will have more time in in your May board meeting to do this, but I appreciate recognizing the work of Garrett Malagrosa, who put a ton of time into this, and as Rafe said, blood, sweat, and tears. But also with Matt Hostinger, who, as you know, is retiring from SACOG and transitioning out, and the smooth landing, as you put it this morning, is really a testament to his incredible professionalism. So I just want to recognize that and recognize the path the board has been on this, that it's not over, that there's a lot more work to do, but again, just appreciate the discussion you had last year and the hard work that's been put in by all of the staff at the local level. So thanks.
Thank you, James. Appreciate that. All right, let's go ahead and move on to item 12, which is to approve the 2021 Regional Active Transportation Program draft recommendation. Victoria, if you would go ahead and provide your presentation.
Thank you. This is Victoria Cacciatore of SACOG staff here to present the recommendation for the Regional Active Transportation Program funding. This is funding that SACOG develops a recommendation for in coordination with El Dorado County Transportation Commission staff, specifically Jerry Barton, and Placer County Transportation Planning Agency staff, specifically Aaron Hoyt. Without their assistance, I do feel that the program would not be as strong as it currently is. This recommendation was presented to all three committees, much like the last item, so our intent is to provide any time needed for additional discussion of the recommendations. The recommendation that you'll see has 6 projects that are receiving the full funding that they requested from SACOG through the regional ATP, and 1 that is partially funding because we did not have sufficient funding to fully fund their request. What is interesting about these projects, there are 3 projects that will be fully constructed with the funding that was awarded to them. But 4 of the projects are larger infrastructure projects where this money is helping get them shovel ready. So then they will be ready to use other funding if they're awarded later, compete more effectively for state programs, et cetera. The Regional Active Transportation Program has a target of a minimum investment level of 35% of the funding that should go to projects that provide a meaningful benefit to disadvantaged community residents. This is our first cycle with that 35% target, which is 10% higher than the state requirement of 25% of the funds that must be invested in a disadvantaged community benefit. We were able to exceed that regional goal by having 55% of our funding invested at the regional level, benefiting disadvantaged community residents in a meaningful way. As a side note, for any of the projects that also applied to the state ATP, many of them for much larger funding requests than what they applied to SACOG for, since we only had 11.7 million. The CTC staff, or California Transportation Commission, is doing phone call debriefs to go over your results from the state evaluation. They will go over both your score sheet comments and then any additional comments that they have from the staff level, since they reviewed every statewide competing project. So with that, I turn the discussion over to the board about whether you would choose to move the recommendation to send this recommended funding list and the contingency list, which is effectively a waiting list in case more funding was to become available. For SACOG to send that to the California Transportation Commission, and for staff to also prepare any of the required programming amendments so project sponsors could start spending the money as soon as they get authorization from the state.
Chair Gore, this is Saylor. If I could, I'd like to move the item.
Senior, second.
Right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or discussion from the directors? And if so, you can raise your hand. All right, do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
All right, so we have a motion by Saylor, second by somebody that I don't recall, but I know you got that, Lynette.
Director
Chenier.
Chenier.
Chenier, thank you. And with that, we'll go ahead and take roll call, please.
Thank you. Director Baines,
Aye.
Bernasconi,
Aye.
Bradford,
Aye.
Branscombe,
Aye.
Boulahan,
Aye.
Burris, absent, Clark Kretz,
Yes.
Desmond,
Aye.
Frericks,
Aye.
Frost,
Aye.
Gallardo,
Aye.
Gog,
Yes.
Herrero,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Joyner,
Yes.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Kozlowski,
Yes.
Lozano,
Aye.
Middleton,
Aye.
New,
Aye.
Sander,
Aye.
Saragosa,
Aye.
Saylor,
Aye.
Chenier,
Aye.
Spokley,
Yes.
Stallard,
Yes.
Soon,
Aye.
Thomas. Aye. West, absent, Vice Chair Jennings,
Aye.
Chair Gore. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. James, you wanted to make a comment?
And I promise, Chair Gore, I won't be commenting after every single item. I just want to say, sometimes, especially when these two things go together, the regional funding gets a lot of the attention, and sometimes the active transportation less so. But your staff again here at SACOG, Victoria in particular, I just want to give a huge shout out to the level of outreach and engagement. This one, of course, across all 6 counties. She had to wrestle with a lot of issues over the last 12 months, including a debate at this board around disadvantaged communities last year. That number you heard from her is okay, but again, I think we can do better. But just a tremendous amount of work. So I really want to thank Victoria and the staff here for this recommendation, and I want to connect it to a few things, even the video that some of you saw this morning from Director Harris showing his vision of the bike trail in Yuba City, kind of Sutter Buttes, the work that many of you are doing, and those of you that have projects that did not get funded. This, I think, is a classic example of we need to figure out how really to get more resources to build this kind of these facilities and these kinds of networks for safe walking and biking for people of all ages and all communities. So again, more to come on this, but I wanted to say a big thank you and a shout out to Victoria and the team here at SACOG.
Thank you, James. All right, let's go ahead and move to item 13, and that is to approve the draft overall work program and budget for fiscal year 2021 and 2022. And this will be presented by Loretta Sue.
Good morning, Loretta Sue, SACOG Finance Director. So give me a minute to just start the presentation here. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Give me 1 second. Sorry again. This is Loretta Sue, SACOG Finance Director. The item before you this morning is the draft budget and OWP for fiscal year 2021 to 2022. The Fixing America Surface Transportation Act called for the development of the overall work program and budget by the federally designated metropolitan planning organizations such as SACOG. The OWP described the continuing comprehensive and coordinated metropolitan planning process for the 6-county Sacramento region. The overall work program activity established transportation, air quality, and other regional planning objectives that support SACOG 3 strategic goals, which include economic prosperity, connected communities, and vibrant places. Some of these projects and programs includes the Civic Lab Innovation Mobility, Mega Regions Working Group, Race, Equity, and Inclusion Initiative, SAC Region Parks and Trail Development Plan, the housing programs, and Greens Mean Goals. The OWP also serve as the SACOG annual blueprints for the agency use of resources for the fiscal year 2021. The overall work program activities is funded with federal and state formula-based revenue source, supplemented by discretionary and non-discretionary grants and contract funds. Attachment A is a list of all the revenue source for SACOG funding source. As required, staff submitted an illustrated draft of the OWP to Caltrans and federal agencies on March 1st for a preliminary review of a major works program, and also to ensure that SACOG planned activities are consistent with the amount and purpose of the funding source supporting the work program. Due to the size of the document, a full draft of the OWP is available on the SACOG website, and a link is also included in the staff item. Staff have received comments back from Caltrans and the federal agency. There were no fiscal impact to the budgets. There were just some minor changes to updates the project descriptions on several projects and activities, describe the impact related to the COVID-19, that how SACOG is doing their outreach during this period of time. Staff will provide a summary of changes resulting from the comments received from Caltrans, federal agency, partners, and public in May, with a draft of the final version of the budgets and OWP for board adoptions. SACOG managed two budgets. The first one is the operation budgets, which includes the overall work programs and activities, capital rally budget, regional budgets, and the use of managed funds, such as the community design programs. Also included in the operation budgets are the capital asset and other local activities. The board and advocacy budgets includes board activities, federal and state work, and also partnerships. For the operation budgets, the total revenue is 26.7 million comparing to 32.8 million, a decrease of 6.1 million. The decrease is due to projects and funding that were ended or nearing completion in 2021. These includes the regional bike ped data collection projects, the Next Gen Transit, Big Data, REAP Round 1 fundings. Here's just a quick summary or overview of the revenue source by the different sectors or governments. So for the federal, SACOG receive about 36% of the revenue from the federal government. These includes the planning funds, the CMAQ programs, and also the regional surface transportation programs. Approximately about 27% is from the state, which includes the REAP housing program funding, the SB1 formula, and discretionary grants. 20% is from local revenue source. This includes the TDA revenue for the 4 counties TDA programs. Service to other is mainly the SAFE. And then 6% is from other source, which includes the use of 526,000 of fund balance and other reserve fund balance for the fiscal year 2021 work activities. This is the overall expenditures. Total expenditures about 22.3 million, a decrease of approximately 4 million compared to fiscal year 2021. As noted earlier, as revenue decreased, expenditure associated with those projects and programs are also decreased. Here's a quick breakdown of expenditures by categories. Staff cost is approximately 48% of SACOG budgets. This includes a replacement of a short-term position and also a hiring of two new short-term positions, which I will describe a little bit later. Also included is the breakdown of 24% of past due costs. These includes mainly the REAP Round 2 funding and also the managed program. Consulting cost is approximately 14% of the total budgets. Overhead and other costs is approximately 14%. Here's just an overview of the headcounts over the last couple of years. As noted, included in the budget is including two new short-term hires. These two new positions are necessary to continue the work of SACOG REI program and also to support the update of the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and sustainable community strategies. I also want to give an overview of the reserve fund and fund balance as of June 30th, and also the projected fund balance as of June 30th, 2021, and also June 30th, 2022. The balance included in 2021 includes staff recommendation in item 15, which Eric will go over in a little bit later. That includes the accept of SACOG Financing Corp funds and also to assign certain amount of funds to the pension plan of $2 million, and also the increasing the legal defense fund back to the 500,000 mark, and then also the remaining 600,000 into the operating cash balance. And then for the projected balance as of June 30th, 2022 includes the spending of 526,000 in reserve fundings. So this is just a quick overview of the fund balance. Staff will bring forward a recommendation of revising the reserve fund balance in May, which will have more detail and cover all these in more detail. Here's an overview of the board and advocacy budget. Total budget for the fiscal year 21-22 is $911,000, which is an increase of $122,000. This also includes the use of a board and advocacy reserve funds of approximately $150,000. In a separate item, staff is recommending and implementing a third-year membership increase. If the board approves the increase, the final budget will reflect the changes in revenue. Here's a quick breakdown of the cost by category. Staff cost is approximately 56%. These include the advocacy and technical support for member jurisdictions. Board expenses is about 10%. Advocacy is about 23%, and partnership is 11%. The next step in this process here. So this morning, staff is seeking board actions to release the draft budget and OWP for public comments. And based on comments received from Caltrans, federal agency, and other comments during the public review period, staff will prepare a final draft budget and OWP for board adoption in May. Once adopted, staff will submit the budget and OWP to Caltrans and federal agency for expenditures to incur effective July 1st, 2022. I'm sorry, July 1st, 2021. With that, I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions.
Thank you very much, Loretta. Appreciate that report. Any questions from directors?
Yes. Quick one. I was looking on the committee listing for SACOG. Does the board have an audit committee?
Yes. The Policy and Innovation Committee is the committee that hear any financial related items, including the audits.
And they meet with the auditors before and after the audit?
Yes. So, so the auditor will meet with the committees in August, typically to kind of go over the overview of the audit process. And then once the final audit is completed and issuance of the financial report, the auditor will report back to the committees the result of the audits.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions from directors for Loretta? All right, we'll go ahead and open this up to the public if there's any public comment.
No public comment.
All
Madam
right,
Chair, I move to approve.
and that was Director Banks.
Kozlowski seconds.
All right, and a second. A roll call, please.
Thank you. Director Baines,
Aye.
Bernasconi,
Aye.
Bradford,
Aye.
Branscombe,
Aye.
Houlihan,
Aye.
Burris, absent Clark Kretz,
Aye.
Desmond,
Aye.
Frericks,
Aye.
Frost,
Aye.
Gallardo,
Aye.
Gog,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Joyner,
Yes.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Kozlowski,
Yes.
Lozano,
Aye.
Middleton,
Aye.
New,
Aye.
Sander,
Aye.
Zaragoza,
Aye.
Saylor,
Aye.
Kinnear,
Aye.
Oakley,
Yes.
Dallard,
Yes.
Thune,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
West absent, Vice Chair Jennings. Director Jennings, if you're there, could you indicate your vote, please? Looks like he has stepped away.
No, my vote is aye.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Chair Gore? Aye. Thank you. Motion carries.
Great, thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 14, which is to approve member dues for 2021-2022. Before we move into this item, we've got item 14, 15, and 16. They're all items that were brought before their respective committees, and they were voted upon unanimously and approved. But Vice Chair Jennings and I thought that due to the nature of the items, and because we have a number of new members, we thought that these would be really good to bring to the entire board for some information and background, as well as for approval. So with that, we will have Eric Johnson move forward with item 14.
Thank you, Chair Gore. And yes, as you mentioned, I'll start off with a little bit of the history on this item, the membership dues increase. Back in 2019, staff under the then relatively new leadership of James Corliss as your executive director took a look back at our membership dues and how we fund some of the new initiatives that SACOG has taken on in the last few years, including our focus on federal and state advocacy, our focus on Civic Lab, and technical support to all of our members, including some of the things you heard about earlier in the day about the support for rural main streets and Civic Lab. In 2019, the board discussion at that point was rather than do a one-year increase that was rather significant, to phase that in over a 3-year period. And so those first 2 years of dues increases have occurred. They're all at a flat level, so we just divided the recommended increase by 3. And so the year starting in July would be the 3rd year of that increase. We brought this before the Policy and Innovation Committee and really just wanted to emphasize that the focus of how these funds might be used is on federal advocacy. As you know, there's lots of activity in Washington right now, and some of the funds that were approved in the funding round come from some of the stimulus funds that have come through already from Congress, but we anticipate that there will be more funding and more opportunities to weigh in on policy issues that may not be as predetermined as those funds that have come through before. And so we really feel like it's important to have the resources to represent the Sacramento region in Washington. We actually have a request for proposals out to potentially look at a federal lobbyist to represent SACOG, which is closing today. So the budget that you just recommended a draft on, as Loretta pointed out, the funds do anticipate currently spending reserves. So once we see what the budgets are for federal advocacy, the final budget we'll bring back will reflect the addition of a lobbyist if we recommend hiring a lobbyist, as well as a reflection of the membership dues to offset any use of reserves if the board moves on this item. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the staff recommendation or any of the history on this item.
Thank you, Eric. Do we have any questions from directors? Director Saragosa.
Not really a question, but just wanted to add some comments as well. As the report mentioned, it was a unanimous decision out of the Policy and Innovation Committee. And again, just to underscore what Eric already said, but with the stimulus dollars and with the anticipated infrastructure package coming in, that will likely be in some level, $1 to $3 trillion. This is really what we think is a one-time opportunity to try to secure dollars for the entire region, and so with such a small amount of dollars that can be used towards advocacy out of SACOG, we thought it was necessary for us to move ahead with this increase in the third year. So I just wanted to add those points.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Director Guerrero.
I just want to say thank you, President Gore. I think this is very helpful as a new board member here, and just want to say that these are areas of importance to West Sacramento. So appreciate the direction of why we need to increase the dues. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from directors? And if not, we will open this up to the public for any public comments.
No public comment.
All right, thank you. Then looking for a motion in a second, please.
I'll move the item.
Director Bradford.
New second.
I didn't hear who moved the item. If you say your name when you do that.
Saragosa.
All right, Saragosa, and then a second by
New.
New. All right, thank you. Roll call, please.
Thank you. Director Baines?
Aye.
Bernasconi?
Aye.
Bradford?
Aye.
Branscombe?
Aye.
Houlihan?
Aye.
Burris? Absent Clark Kretz?
Aye.
Desmond?
Aye.
Frericks?
Aye.
Frost?
Aye.
Dialdo?
Aye.
Gog?
Yes.
Guerrero?
Aye.
Harris?
Yes.
Joyner?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Kozlowski?
Yes.
Lozano?
Aye.
Middleton?
Aye.
New?
Aye.
Sander?
Aye.
Zaragoza?
Aye.
Saylor?
Aye.
Chenier?
Aye.
Stokely?
Yes.
Stallard?
Aye.
Soon?
Aye.
Thomas?
Aye.
West absent Vice Chair Jennings?
Aye.
Chair Gore?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to item 15, which is accept funds from Financing Corporation. And Eric, this is yours as well.
Thanks, Chair Gore. So a bit of the history on this item. The SACOG Board of Directors had set up a financing corporation, which really had a singular purpose, which was related to owning office space for SACOG's offices. Over time, when SACOG moved to its current location at 1415 L Street, because we're a joint powers authority, we're not allowed to own real estate. And so this separate financing corporation, which is set up as a nonprofit, was used for that purpose. SACOG then decided to exit its ownership stake and move to become a tenant of 1415 L Street. And so at that time, the proceeds from that sale all went back into the financing corporation where they've resided since that time. In 2019, when the board recommended renewing our lease and making renovations to the space, some of the proceeds from that sale were used towards those renovations. But now those renovations are all completed and we hope to return to the office later this year. So with no real estate purchases predicted for SACOG at this time, staff's recommendation was to wind down the financing corporation. So the financing corporation, which is made up of the board members who sit on the Policy and Innovation Committee, met on April 5th and moved to dissolve the corporation and transfer the remaining assets back to SACOG. So that's what's before you today, is both the initial principal from the purchase of the office building, as well as interest that has accrued through the financing corporation over that time. So $2.9 million are being returned to SACOG. Staff recommendation is to set up a trust fund at CalPERS, and that'll be the next item. And then the remaining approximately $900,000, as Loretta mentioned, would be used to increase SACOG's fund balance reserves. And so the majority of that would move towards our operating cash reserve, and then the remainder towards increasing our legal defense fund back to the level it was at historically. Just a quick note on the operating cash reserve. SACOG only receives primarily, as Loretta mentioned, federal and state grant funds, which are all reimbursement based. And so cash flow is a really crucial issue for SACOG. And so having adequate operating cash reserves is essential to our operations, and this would help us increase that amount. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that background. And are there questions from any of our directors?
Yeah, quick question if I can. So Eric, these funds are 100% unrestricted?
Correct.
Okay, I'll go ahead and move the item.
I second that.
All right, and that was a second by Director Bog. And do we have any other questions? All right, I don't see any, and any public comment on this item?
No public comment.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. A roll call, please.
Director Baines?
Aye.
Bernasconi?
Aye.
Bradford?
Aye.
Branscombe?
Aye.
Houlihan?
Aye.
Burris absent. Clark Kretz?
Aye.
Desmond?
Aye.
Frericks?
Aye.
Frost?
Aye.
Gallardo?
Aye.
Gog?
Yes.
Guerrero?
Aye.
Harris?
Yes.
Joyner?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Kozlowski?
Yes.
Lozano?
Aye.
Middleton?
Aye.
New?
Aye.
Sander?
Aye.
Zaragoza?
Aye.
Saylor?
Aye.
Chenier?
Aye.
Spokley? Director Spokley, could you indicate your vote, please? I will note for the record his thumb is up in the affirmative. Yes, thank you. Stallard?
Yes.
Thune? Director Soon, could you indicate your vote, please? Oh, I'm not seeing him. For the record, I'll note him absent. Thomas?
Aye.
West absent. Vice Chair Jennings?
Yes.
Chair Gore?
All right, motion carries. Thank you. And we'll move to item 16, which is to authorize the action of California Employers Pension Pre-Funding Trust. Go ahead, Eric.
Thank you. So just moving off of the last item, the initial $2 million that's coming back to SACOG, our recommendation is to actually establish a pre-funding trust with CalPERS CalPERS has a relatively new vehicle that's open to public agencies that are participants in CalPERS to set aside a trust that they can utilize to make payments towards CalPERS liabilities. SACOG has had an ongoing increase in unfunded liability payments, as all CalPERS participants have over the last several years. And so by setting up this trust, we hope to utilize it as part of our budgeting process every year to minimize the impact on our operating budget by making payments from the trust towards increased unfunded liability payments. Right now, we have about $1.2 to $1.3 million in unfunded liability payments each year. By using this in coordination with our ongoing budget that we have already established for making those payments, we hope to have a relatively small increase in any payments over time towards the unfunded liability and ultimately pay off those liabilities over a longer term. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eric. Really appreciate our staff and our directors being very thoughtful when it comes to the fiscal sustainability of this organization. Really important, especially as you mentioned that most of the funding comes from state and federal grants, and those are a lot of pass-through. So appreciate the thought that's gone into this. Are there any questions from any of the directors? All right, so, Director Frost.
Hi, Eric. I was wondering if your goal is to be super funded, or, you know, what is your, what are you, I like what you're doing with the trust funds. I was just curious to know what the timeline is on where we're at, how much funded are we, what percentage are we funded, and what is your goal to kind of achieve? Some people don't see themselves as super funded, you know, fully funded, but they want to be in range. I was just curious.
Sure. I might ask Loretta if she can reference what our funded status is. I don't have that right in front of me right now, but I think she probably could pull it up pretty quickly. With regards to how this will be utilized, the approach here really is to, you know, we have $16 to $17 million in unfunded liability. So, you know, just making a one-time payment, unfortunately, won't help us to pay that all off. The intent here really is that we've figured out how to manage our budget to have an ongoing cost of $1.2 to $1.3 million each year. And so if there's an increase of $100,000 or $300,000 in a given year, we would make a payment from this trust first, rather than having to cut costs of $300,000 to manage that increase from CalPERS. Additionally, CalPERS says that the rate of return projected for this is about 5% over a 10-year period. Right now, we're in the county's LAIF, and so we get about 1% return. So we hope, in addition to having this year for the board to use as a discretionary source each year when we do that budgeting process, that whatever principal is sitting in the trust will continue to earn interest that we could also use towards paying down those liabilities. And in terms of our forecast for liabilities, we do anticipate that approximately 12 years out, if there aren't significant increases in the unfunded liability costs due to market returns being less than anticipated by CalPERS, that we would then start to see a normal decline in the unfunded liability payments that were required by CalPERS. I think we're about 5 years into the current unfunded liability window, which is amortized over a 20-year period. And so by the time that this starts to kind of wind down, we will be fully utilizing what's going into the trust, but we'll also see that initial $1.2 to $1.3 million that is owed start to decline over time, because as the staff report mentioned, this is for our closed tier 1. So there are no new hires that are going into this tier. And so as people start to retire, and that population shrinks, then the liability will then also decline.
Yeah, we're all working through that. And do you know if CalPERS is thinking about changing their assumptions again? Lowering.
I haven't heard recently about lowering their discount rate.
I was just curious. All right, thanks, Eric.
Sure.
Loretta, did you want to add anything to that?
Yes, so let's see, as of June 30th, 2020, the funded pension plan, it's approximately 72% for SACOG.
Great, thank you. All right, any other questions from directors on this item? Okay, and any public comment on this item?
No public comment.
All right. You have a motion.
Thomas, move the item.
Thank you. And do we have a second? Director Thomas?
Soon second.
And a second by Director Soon. Roll call, please.
Thank you. Director Baines?
Aye.
Bernasconi?
Aye.
Bradford?
Aye.
Branscombe?
Aye.
Houlihan?
Aye.
Burris absent. Clark Kretz?
Aye.
Desmond?
Aye.
Frericks?
Aye.
Frost?
Aye.
Gallardo?
Aye.
Gog?
Yes.
Guerrero?
Aye.
Harris?
Yes.
Joyner?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Kozlowski?
Yes.
Lozano?
Aye.
Middleton?
Aye.
New?
Aye.
Sander?
Aye.
Zaragoza?
Aye.
Saylor?
Aye.
Janier?
Aye.
Coakley?
Yes.
Stallard?
Yes.
Soon?
Aye.
Thomas?
Aye.
West absent. Vice Chair Jennings?
Aye.
Chair Gore? Thank you. Motion carries.
Wonderful, thank you so much. All right, time for reports. We are early on our schedule, and I'll share with you, which is sort of nice, because, and you heard, as we discussed the transportation item earlier, there had been a lot of conversation and discussion, so we chose not to have a workshop today to allow for robust conversation if needed. So we might finish up a little bit early today, which is nice. I wanted to mention just one thing since I sort of gave a report out early on, but what I am trying to do while we're still in this.
Hi, Kathleen. I'm sorry. I called you by mistake.
As we're still in this virtual situation and a lot of us have not met in person, we're doing these sort of 9 a.m. prior to the board meeting, meet and greet, get to know one another in the jurisdiction a little bit better. We had Director Clark Kretz and Director Harris share a little bit about projects in their jurisdictions. So if you've got a project that you might like to share with the rest of the directors, maybe something that's a little bit SACOG related, love to have you share with us next month at our board meeting. This gives us a chance to get to know each other a little bit better. And as a result of these, I always want to go out and see other people's jurisdictions and see what this great region has to offer. With that, we're going to move next to board or directors reports, board member reports. Anybody on the board have a report, something like to report out to the whole? Director Saylor.
Thanks, Chair Gore. I'm just want to make a comment. Earlier in our meeting, we approved the active transportation program funding amounts, and I do want to second Mr. DeCorlis' comments regarding the performance of Victoria Cacciatore in presenting that to us. It's a complex package with multiple funding streams and multiple agencies and a lot of interests that are overlapping. One of the projects in that package today, I want to just comment on, it's the 505 overcrossing near the city limits of Winters in Yolo County. That project is a classic environmental justice project. About 30 years ago, Caltrans worked to build a 505, Interstate 505, that sort of is a cut across between Interstate 80 and Interstate 5. In doing so, the little tiny residential community of El Rio Villa was separated from the city of Winters. El Rio Villa at that point was a migrant housing project, and now it's a permanent housing project for low-income folks that's operated by YOLO Housing. That 505 separated that community from the schools, the grocery, healthcare, everything that you need for daily life, and the crossing is very, very unsafe. So this is a very good step today. We were able to secure through the ATP program partial funding for that project. There are other places like this throughout the region, but I think it's an example of worthy of note as a disadvantaged community and how we can affect the lives of people through decisions that we make here at the SACOG board. There's an amazing partnership underway right now. Caltrans District 3, the City of Winters, Yolo County, the SACOG staff team have all been collaborating to move this forward. And today's action by the board, I want to comment and appreciation for the board's support and for staff's ongoing efforts there. We're pursuing a member designated funding source with help from Caltrans. And this is it's been 10 years in the making to get even to this point. We've got some videos and some things to share with you at some point. But thank you for your indulgence. Sometimes these technical things we forget by adding up all the numbers and looking at the project lists and so on. That these things make a big difference in the lives of people. And so thank you for the opportunity to say that.
Thank you, Director Saylor. I had a chance to see those videos. James shared them with me, and it's a great reminder that it is people behind a lot of these projects, right? That folks need to be able to cross over a large highway without sidewalks to get to a place where they can get services that they need. And so it's great to see that and be reminded of, right, that the projects that we're providing make a difference in our communities. Any other reports from directors? All right, then we will move to the executive director report. James.
Well, thank you, Chair Gore. I hope my internet stays strong through this because it's been a little sick lately. Anyway, speaking of which, I want to just move to the possibility of an infrastructure bill. This has been referenced a couple of times. Chair Gore, you were asking our staff, when's the next funding round? I do want to prepare all of us for the possibility there may be funding coming to this region, maybe sooner than next year if Congress does something on infrastructure. It obviously remains to be seen. As I think you all know, it looks like, and this has been in the cards for a while now, but a much broader, if there is a bill out of Congress this year, in addition to the regular order every 6 years transportation bill, an infrastructure bill would be a much broader take on infrastructure, not just transportation. There's a lot of things in there that I think are of great interest to this region. And I would imagine that many of you and your cities and counties and the associations that you serve on and your federal advocacy lobbyists are probably going to be very involved in this. A reminder that we felt like we were almost too late last summer, but we were actually 12 months early. We put together an infrastructure stimulus report last year. We did it with over 50 public agencies. That was not something we were planning to do, but when we heard President Trump and Speaker Pelosi both say the same things around infrastructure, we thought we should do our homework and get our act together. That report's on our website. It's called Ready for Recovery. I really want to commend it to you if you are doing any work on the bill with your members of Congress, with our delegation. I think it's a great report that summarizes a lot of ready to go projects across all kind of asset classes, infrastructure classes, emphasizes some really important themes, including mega regional connections and airports and levees and disaster preparedness and resiliency. Director Saylor just mentioned the member request, as you probably have seen too. With a decade in absence, the Congress is now talking about bringing back earmarks. I can give you my opinion on this, which is I think it's a double-edged sword, to be kind. But if we're going to do that, and if earmarks are really real, and certainly there's been a lot of deadlines that have already now passed, I would just ask that you do have you make sure that your own agencies are just checking in with us. I think what we don't want to do is have a situation where a project comes up in appears in a bill that is not coordinated. On transportation in particular, right? Just and we've got some criteria already that we've offered to some of our partners and our member agencies. So just a request, if we can just do our best to coordinate around those earmark requests. A couple of the quick things. Again, I appreciate Director Harris early before the board meeting this morning showing a video that I have already seen, but I think is really inspiring. We had a couple of glitches on it. Maybe we can roll it back out again, but the drone video of the old railroad right-of-way that goes from Yuba City all the way out to the Sutter Buttes. And that's by way of saying, we are working on a regional trails plan. Speaking of Victoria Cacciatore and the great work that she does, and you've had this and you're going to get another briefing in May. But we are really trying to get the word out on this Parks and Trails plan. What would it look like to connect every community in this region with a safe, convenient network of trails, of biking and walking trails, with a particular emphasis on disadvantaged communities and connection to disadvantaged communities. We've got an online survey out right now. It's a tool called Maptionnaire. We've got 2 more weeks. We had wanted to get 1,000 responses. We are now over 1,000 responses. I can give you a heat map of the region, but I'm reaching out to you individually where we don't have as many. That doesn't mean you shouldn't all do that. That was in my executive director report and update. You've got links on our website. So whatever we can do to get creative, our staff had to get creative without being able to do any kind of in-person public engagement. And I'm, again, so far really happy to see the level of input on that. And then just a couple of things finally. We are doing these lunchtime briefings, especially for new board members, but they are open to anybody, any board member. In May, our topic will be the MTPSCS, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, Sustainable Community Strategy. You're going to be kicking that off again this year, the 2024 long range plan. So there's a lunch between Transportation and Land Use Committee. Any board member is welcome to attend that. But in particular, if you're a new board member, the alphabet soup of our long range plan is on the menu. And it's a really important one to understand. We will probably most likely touch on that plan again several times, but in particular at your board retreat. Chair Gore mentioned that retreat. I just want to put that put a final exclamation point on that. If you have not RSVP'd those 2 dates, please do that. We have about half of you that have indicated your availability. I would sure like to schedule that on one of those dates where we can get the most of you to attend. And our aim is to do an in-person retreat. We are working hard to figure out what that looks like, where it will be, what the agenda is. The Strategic Planning Committee, May 10th, will hear that item and talk a little bit about what agenda would be the most helpful to you all come the fall. But would love to have as many people, those of you that were around in 2017 and 2019, I think we had excellent retreats for the board where it really offered a lot of opportunity for people to sink their teeth into some really important basic questions. What's the role of SACOG? Where's the region going? And what can we do to improve the lives of every person in it? So let us know, please get back to Lynette Espinoza, your board clerk, on your availability for those 2 dates. I would imagine it will take most of the day. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, James. Appreciate it. And with that, there are a couple of items to receive and file you can take a look at. But we are at 11 o'clock. We are able to finish early this morning. Thank you all for your attendance. We've got committee meetings again coming up and lots of good work ahead of us. So thank you so much. We will see you at our next meeting on May 20th. And with that, we are adjourned, and enjoy this wonderful spring weather. And I look forward to seeing you all soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. See you.
Have a great day.